Hello and welcome to today's Lemongrass Live. My name is Jerry Bennett from the Lemongrass marketing team. I'd also like to welcome our discussion leaders from Lemongrass today. We have Jason Nichol, Mike Larnan and Barry Cullen. For anyone who's not joined a Lemongrass Live session before, they're meant to be informative but fun, and also they're as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions at any stage, please feel free to type them into the question or chat area on your control panel. We'll try and include as many as we can in the next 28 minutes or so. Any we can't include, we'll follow up with you directly after the session. But with that, I'll hand over to Jason to start the session. Thanks ever so much.
Awesome, thanks Joe, and thanks everyone for coming along today for another Lemongrass Live. Very excited about today's topic. It's a bit of a passion of mine. Certainly something that I've learned over the last 5 years being at Lemongrass is fundamental to everything for our customers to recognise benefits. We have spent many hours over the preceding Lemongrass Live sessions talking about business cases, the challenges, the benefits, a lot of focus around migration. But today we're going to flip it around and really look at it from the other dimension, that probably the most fundamental dimension from my perspective, which is all about operating SAP on the cloud. So what do we do once we get there? We'll cover a number of different topics, and I'll introduce the panel in a second, but really around how is it different to on-premise? What have we learned from our previous engagements? Lemongrass has been doing this for a long time, so we'll share some of that. How best to structure your competency center, or the skills that are emerging around being able to run that. And we'll also touch on some of the hot topics like automation. But first, let's introduce the speakers. So I'll kick off. I'm Jason Nichol. I look after Lemongrass in the region, been in the SAP ecosystem 25 years. Barry?
Hi there, I'm Barry Cullen. I'm a service delivery manager. Been with Lemongrass for nearly 4 years now, and around IT over 20 years. Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. So my name is Mike Larnan. I'm with Lemongrass for 3 years. I've been in the industry for 20 plus years. Yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Mike. Look, I'll kick off the session. So just setting the scene, I said at the outset that Lemongrass has been managing SAP workloads on clouds now for over 10 years. We claim a lot, it's all about operate. So why is that? Why is it so important? Look, for me, just setting the scene around 3 primary topics. The obvious one is delivering the benefits happens after any sort of migration. So customers are focusing on moving the cloud, particularly for SAP, to make it more cloudy. It's easy to change to be more reliable, more available, fit into a digital process. But all things from an SAP perspective aren't like that. Once the migration is completed, it's about really enabling the benefits, delivering on the TCO. Secondly, there really is a fundamental change in the way that you operate SAP in the cloud. An example is on-premise, when you commit to the infrastructure spend, there's really no extra focus from a FinOps or a costing perspective. You've got a set capacity, you've got a set hardware. On the cloud, obviously, you've got infinite capacity, but that also brings the challenges that people can turn things on, run them up very quickly, and therefore this new emergence of FinOps has really come around. There's also technology and automation that allows you to scale out for events. So we've got retailers that scale out for sales, and really being able to manage that in a different way. And finally, once you're actually on the cloud and you're running SAP in a more cloudy way, there is the opportunity to really start to innovate and look at the innovations that are coming out from the hyperscalers, and being able to add to what is the core of your foundation with respect to SAP. Certainly from an automation perspective, be able to take advantage of reducing manual effort, getting to self-service, being able to let project teams do a lot of the things themselves. So you take some of that, I guess, that mundane traditional basis and infrastructure work away, which is quite different for most organizations that we come across when they think about it. But Mike, I'd like to hear from you. You've obviously been in this space a long time. What are you seeing when it comes to moving SAP to the cloud from an operate perspective or managed service perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Jace. Fully agree what you just told as well. Look, when we talk to customers, the main focus with a lot of migrations is on the actual migration themselves, right? Customer, they look at cost savings by running workloads on a hyperscaler and just get them over the line. And then suddenly they are in the cloud, right? And then they scratch their head. So, oh, now we're in the cloud and we've got the whole traditional team to look after cloud technology. And then they, oh, but this is different, right? So that's a gap I see a lot. And we try to address that with our implement methodology to put operate first as well. So during our design sessions, workshop with the customers, we put a lot of effort in getting that operate piece designed and signed off and talk them through the changes. Barry, you might have your view on that later, perhaps as well. Tools, that's another tools and vision, right? So a lot of customers, they are used to their own tool sets on premise, they're used to them, it works, they can run their workloads, whatever. Suddenly they migrate to the cloud, and for a lot of customers, they think, okay, the tool sets I run on premise, we just use them on cloud as well. And that's can be another mistake as well. Some tools are suitable for cloud, but a lot of the on-prem tool sets, that's just incompatible with cloud workloads. That's another point I would like to address. Yeah, and the human factor, right? And that's a bit delicate topic, of course, but people are reluctant to change. Teams are established, they are perhaps stubborn. I'm not sure if I can use that word, but just did it. So teams are established, the way of working are established, moving to the cloud, they treat it as a data center in the cloud, which again, it might work, but you won't get all the benefits of actually running your SAP workloads on the cloud. So those are a bit of my 3 points I see a lot happening. And we as a Lemongrass, we try to educate and guide our customers through that whole journey, maturing up from changing from on-premise to cloud workloads. But because we've got the master on this call, right, Barry Cullen. You've been looking after, I don't know how many thousands of workloads for Lemongrass. I would like to hear your view on how you structure an operate team.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. All right, so we've got a number of things that we look at, I guess. Some of those key observations that we would look to initially would be, the SAP Cloud Service Catalog and understanding, what's required within there. We know that customers are adopting cloud for a number of reasons, whether that be quicker provisioning, more innovation, better reliability. But you really need to get that into a service delivery catalog and understand what that actually means. We've, like you've touched on there, we find a number of customers or organizations that simply want to take their current service delivery catalog and put it in the cloud. But you're never going to get the true benefits of operating in the cloud under those circumstances. I guess once you understand that digital SDC, service delivery catalog, we then recommend delivery through service-orientated teams. That ensures that they become experts in your service delivery catalog. They own how we deliver to those services, what those SLAs are, what tools, and probably most importantly, they're the first that we would see evolving the service and innovating it. So that leads me on probably to the next one around innovation in the cloud, and obviously that's just as key as business as usual. We see hyperscalers at the moment, they're innovating at an incredible rate just now. And we need to, or you need to be in a position to, and agile enough to benefit from that innovation that's happening just now. There's lots of examples out there, and if you're not ready for that, then it's that's a costly affair as well, where you're missing opportunities to save dollars. Innovation in cloud, that also means new sets of skills that we see. You know, there's some basic new skills that you'll need around new infrastructure, OS and DBs, obviously, but we've touched on a little bit earlier as well around FinOps and cloud architecture and automation, and that probably leads me on to you know, my final observation. You know, we believe that the only way to get the best benefits out of cloud are through automation. So, you know, you've got to have a general ambition of automating everything. You know, and you also need those capabilities as well, as I touched on in the point before. So, you know, that's probably some of the key things that I've noted. So again, you know, we hear the term often around near zero operations mentioned. Maybe you can discuss, Mike, a little bit about, you know, how we achieve that, what it means, and how we can get to that. That'd be good.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, near zero, right? That's also like a buzzword nowadays, and that's not even actually a buzzword. That is understandable actually for a lot of businesses. They run 24/7, right? The whole world is their economy, so our customers, they are actually looking for near zero operations or near zero downtime. So let me peel that off a little bit on a high level. So I will skip the whole near zero downtime migration because that's not the topic of this live webinar. But again, from an operate perspective, near zero operations, you can be unplanned downtime, and that's the worst nightmare for us, but also for our customers, of course. And the other one is planned outages, right? But coming back to the unplanned ones, that's usually lack of capacity, increase of workloads, not have the right alerting setups, etc. That will cause, in my experience, the most unplanned outages. We as a Lemongrass, we have a self-learning healing system, and we try with all those. Was it 8,000, Barry? I can't remember, but our thousands of workloads, we will gather all the data is collected in our data lake, so we can learn from others, and we make improvements in our service to just reduce those unplanned outages. So that's a good thing for all of us.
But I think just, sorry to interrupt, Mike, but I think that's one of the good points when we talk about SAP being more cloudy. There should never be a situation where if you can scale out automatically, that the systems are going down. And I guess that's the difference for us. You've got to take advantage of that ability to be able to use the tools that exist across the hyperscalers to monitor that infrastructure and automatically provision that. And then from an operational perspective, get that notification into the right hands, because obviously that costs money. There needs to be a decision why that occurred. No, it's a really good point.
Yeah, but yeah, there always the tricky bit of the human error, but in the past, and it still exists with the automatic table size extent, right? So if someone writes bad coding and the database 100%. Will blow up, it will grow indefinitely on cloud, right? But the bill will also grow.
That's why we've got our FinOps to be able to capture some of that. You know, when we see those cost anomalies.
Exactly. So then that brings it all together. Planned outages, and that's also I think we've got a beautiful use case in North America. But basically, what we are trying to do is near zero downtime patching. So think about the system cloning, fail forward mechanism, rolling kernel switches is possible with SP kernels. Some operating system levels also you can do live patching. So all those new technologies we bring into our service just to eliminate the downtime for our customers. So that's a bit of the benefits, but probably you see a lot more benefits from your level, Jason.
Yeah, and look, I think coming to that planned downtime as well, we're starting to see, and this where this innovation angle comes back in as well, is the same pattern that we're using for that planned downtime, so the ability to effectively roll forward or move forward on versions, whether it be OS or others. It's the same basic principle that we're now applying to ransomware scenarios, right? Where we can rebuild production systems for customers so that they're actually rebuilding production on a 30 or 90 or 60 day scale. So I think that's really important. So
yeah.
So
without automation, sorry to interrupt as well, but how do you see that without on-prem or without automation? Is that even possible?
yeah, look, you can't do it without automation, and that's why we stress so much, not only about operate being probably the most fundamental thing for organizations to think about before they enter a cloud journey, but also you can't deliver the benefits, and you really can't be agile without that automation. And we ourselves have been doing automation for 10 years. We focused very much on the migration to start with, but that's been somewhat commoditized, and actually all of the benefit, and particularly around cost reduction. So some of our customers are getting up to 50% cost reduction. You can't do that without getting the right roles in place, putting in automation and using it effectively, and then taking advantage of these new things, even if it's a change in family or file system. All of the new chipsets are driving costs down. You've got to have a way to be able to move from one to the other. So cost reductions, I think, one thing that we really need to focus on from a getting the benefits perspective, and TCO is certainly the important anchor point, I guess, for operate. Getting a team focused on innovation, that's part of the challenge, right? If you're not using automation and you've got a basis and infrastructure team that are doing the same old, then you're not going to get them off the mundane tasks that still exist, whether you're on-premise or in cloud, to be able to move them into that innovation piece, retrain them on Ansible or any of the scripting languages. You can do that. Like any organization, ours is no different. If your really smart people are using all the really cool tools, they're learning all the time, they stay motivated, and that's pretty important, especially nowadays when these skills are actually becoming harder to find. Certainly for the emerging skills like FinOps and SecOps, which we hear about DevOps. There's other webinars that you can listen to that. I think from a business perspective, when we look at making SAP more cloudy, and Super Retail Group was a classic example where the higher availability, the fact that they could very easily scale out for a sales event on a Friday, something that used to take many weeks to plan for and operationalize. And now the business actually runs more smoothly, a happier business, a better customer experience, because the systems are more reliable. So I think all in that, ultimately what you want is SAP to behave like any other normal app in the cloud. So how do we get it there? Is quite often it's been more problematic, but it is easier to change it if you have the right mindset and focus on operate from the outset. That's pretty important.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, sorry. I was just jump in with one question that actually just is a related question that's come in. So although cost is king or queen, also people really are aspiring for that agility, and maybe taking a kind of buzzword, but it's definitely becoming reality. The question is, what is your take on delivering DevOps in operating SAP? I know there's some differences in opinion about what DevOps for SAP is, but smiles all around there.
That's probably
who
one for
wants
me.
to take that one? Okay,
that's probably one for me, that one. So yeah, I guess I touched on earlier service teams. So that's kind of how we build multidisciplined teams across basis, cloud, development. We've been organising our service teams around major operate value streams at this stage. So we're looking at patch management, for example, all the way from planning, change control, all the way through to patch execution, or even building new SAP systems. We've used the teams to do that as well, with some latest orchestration, one of our customers, which was pretty successful. The things that these teams do, we've got to be able to measure them as well. So we're advancing our technology as well with the SAP on the cloud data lakes, and we're taking some of that effort that's happening from the teams, feeding it into the data lake. We're getting some interesting results out of that. That's given us some insights, which is great. Allows us to focus on process improvement. What data we get out of there. Any automation that we can put in place. Start to have a look at where's the most risky pieces to us, time-consuming processes. What can we put in place to make that easier? And ultimately, you know, as we are continuously learning and improving on those particular areas, you know, that cycle reduces risk and cost to our customers, but you know, it also improves the consultant's experience on a daily basis. So yeah, that's pretty much what we see from a DevOps perspective.
Win-win.
Yeah. I still feel it's definitely evolving, though. I still feel from the articles you read, from the customer experiences, that kind of DevOps at SAP is still an evolving skill set, practice, approach. And I guess like the cloud journey, although it's maturing, there are still some ways to go. And actually, you mentioned earlier, Jason, about FinOps. I think it was you, Jason. You know, cost is continuously being monitored in cloud. It's not a standalone or, you know, one-step process. So what are you saying about FinOps? And, you know, for people that are thinking about changing their skill sets, adapting, modernizing, smiles again on this topic, but where is FinOps? And, you know, obviously it's key. It is key to controlling those costs. But give us a view why it's such a hot topic.
It's the hot topic, and certainly I'll get Mike to chip in as well. But it's a brand new skill set, really, because traditionally, if you think about on-premise, you get the architects to work out what size system that you need to support that SAP application. You go and buy it, you install it, and that's it. It gets depreciated. In a cloud context, you don't really do that. It's an evolutionary thing. You could have a system that's on demand. You could buy reserved instances or savings plans. New innovations come out that create cost reduction. So you end up with this role that's somewhere between IT and somewhere between procurement. And it's basically those merging of skill sets that really not only have to be multidiscipline, so they have to understand the cloud, how to buy it, what it means when it's provisioned, but also then how to control that spend within an organization and stay on top of it, because it's constantly changing in customers. And we joked around before about thousands of workloads that Barry looks after, but it does, when you've got thousands of lines on your hyperscaler bill, you have to be able to interpret that, work out what's going up, why it's going up, and what the remediation actions are for that. It's a very, very important skill, and it's something that customers don't think about until after they've switched systems on, and they end up with very peaky costs and slowly get control of it unless they get some assistance.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. We've got a mature customer with us just now, where, you know, we're forever evolving, and you know, we've just put some automation live, which is looking at orphaned volumes after a period of time. You know, that's all creating storage cost at that point in time. You know, and you know, we run the automation, and lo and behold, we're $1,600 better off. So, you know, we're currently looking at that across all our customer base at the moment.
Yeah, that's good. And then another point I want to make with FinOps related is the whole tagging strategy, right? So a lot of customers, they will charge internal the spend on their projects, right? And that can only happen with the right tagging strategy. And then within Operate, we also check on untagged resources. So we can just report what resources are untagged, go to the IT, okay, we see some orphan services which are now going to your IT budget, but perhaps you want to reallocate them to another cost center, right?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, but it's a very hot topic, security and finance in cloud.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is where it increases agility. So, you know, it allows projects to be spun up much quicker. You can fail fast, you know, all of those things. You can turn 100%. Things on, but actually you have the chance that leaving the lights on is incurring more cost. We've all got smart meters now. A lot of us have smart meters. It's kind of, it is smart IT, but you need to manage smart IT. It's interesting. Now I heard from another. Oh, sorry, you go. Right. No, you go.
No, just and you be on top of it, right? You can't. So you need to check the checkers as well, right? So you can't set and forget. You need to constantly monitor and adjust.
Well, this maybe leads to the last question. I think we've got one last question we can fit in, and I heard this from a colleague the other day. The hyperscalers bring in thousands of innovations, so they're really business innovations, not just IT innovations. But actually, one of the challenges is actually getting the benefits from those innovations. You really can find it quite hard. So How would you recommend, or how could businesses take advantage of those, or the best approach? Because this is again a continuous journey in the cloud. How are Lemongrass working with their customers to really make sure they're getting the value from either us as a specialist or from the hyperscalers that they've bought into?
Look, from my perspective, it is exactly, I think, just following on from the point you made. There's been a real change in how customers manage risk. So traditionally, you would go to the normal, well-known SIs. We're seeing a real split away from that with people looking at technical specialists, and it's not only because of their skills in doing the migrate and the operate, but it's also the fact that they're so plugged into the hyperscalers that quite often, like Lemongrass, we're involved in those development cycles. So we know what's coming down the pipeline. We know the implication on our very large customer base, and we can engage very early on in conversations to say, hey, look, this is coming. Maybe you think about moving to it. It'll change some cost or it'll improve some innovation. The other side is that is obviously having a very good and ongoing relationship with the hyperscaler, and quite often people buy from a vendor and then keep them out in that instance. Certainly in the SAP context, that's been the case over the years. But I think the door needs to be open. Quite often they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to save the money. The cultures that the hyperscalers are having are a little bit different. So that's my view. Mike, Barry, anything to add?
Yeah, look, I totally agree with that. So I think within Operate, we, STC, we have it's all line items. It's very transparent. One of them is cloud innovations. So we can do cloud innovation days for our customers. So we will gather all the relevant information for their workloads, and then we can talk to them. Hey, this is coming, or this is already announced and available. This might be useful for you guys. Should we try it out on a sandbox environment whatsoever? So that would be my approach to all those innovations coming from the hyperscalers. So gathering, sharing information, bit of education, try things out, and then implement it in a DevOps way.
Yeah, I think lastly for me is also just look at your channels of information. So we run our own newsletters through Joe, who's hosting this session. We've got our Innovation Hub LinkedIn group. They're all forums where people are talking about these things, so get plugged in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Good ideas. I think we're just out of time. I've run over. Jason, maybe I'll hand back to you just for a summary and maybe some key takeaways.
Yeah, look, from my perspective, I think if I was to try and summarize it in a couple of things, I think it is a continuous cycle, so you need to structure yourself about that and engage very early. Make things visible really early by applying techniques and the value mapping that's measured and continuous. So the concept of data lakes and using that, as Mike said, to be able to monitor yourself and do that, and use insights, like I said, around the engaging the hyperscalers, engaging specialists like Lemongrass, and really focus on automation. So it really is important that you bring that whole conversation around automation and operate right up front in the assessment phase if you can, because it really does make a big impact on the TCO and how you run yourself later on. Barry, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say define a cloud orientated SDC like we discussed earlier, and digitalize that. Also look at how you're going to deliver that service delivery catalog, service orientated teams we discussed, and then as you mentioned there as well, it is continuous innovation improvements, as well as your business as usual. And then last couple of points, but not least, but invest in new skills and finally everything's about automation. So where you can do that, and as you said, if you can bring that up front as part of a migration piece, perfect. It sets us in the right path. Mike,
yeah, no, I agree, especially with that last point you made, right? You have to start up front, and I think Jason, you also addressed it. There's a journey that companies are on, right? I like you once told me, Jason, it's like a wedding and a marriage kind of thing, right? A lot of people spend a lot of money on their wedding, and then the marriage is almost neglected and downhill. Just have a nice wedding,
Focus on the marriage.
But focus on the marriage, right? That's my key takeaway for today.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Well, thanks ever so much. Thanks, Jason, Mike, and Barry for your insights. Very enjoyable half hour there. And thanks to everyone who joined in or who also raised questions. Really, really good conversation engagement there. So in the next day or so, we'll share a link to the recording by email. We'll also share the contact details for Jason, Mike, and Barry. As Jason mentioned, we do have other areas that you can gain insights from us. So not only our website, we have our Innovation Hub, which has thought leadership articles from Mike, Jason, and many others from our organisations, and some of our third parties. So definitely getting insights there. But also newsletters, so feel free to sign up to those. And we look forward to joining you later in the year for another Lemongrass Live. I just wish you a good rest of the day, and thanks again for joining.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye.